You know what's really astonishing to me? There's been people that have been trying to convince the entire world about how advanced they are, how much they know, their lie IQ, and all that stuff. And now there are parts of the country where they are more behind than the people in the inner cities. Ladies and gentlemen, I've learned a lot just growing through my life. When I got into college, there were quite a few people that went to Catholic school. For the first time in my life, I had learned the Catholic schools, many of them are behind the public schools. I always figure if you're paying for education, you're probably more advanced. That's not the case at all. When I got to college, I knew how to use a computer. I was in school with people that went to all these different Catholic schools. They didn't even know how to use a computer, nor did they have access to a computer in the Catholic school. I was shocked. And this actually reminds me of that. You would think, okay, these folks always talking a good game, but you're finding out they're not advanced in all areas across the country. There are areas that have populations and they don't have access to high-speed internet. Their hospitals are behind. The schools are behind. Everything's behind. They're behind the damn big cities. I have relatives that go to school in the inner cities, and they tell me all that, they got computer class. You can get certification for MCSE. How are you behind? But they are. Not the first time I've ever found stuff like this out in my life. And it won't be the last time, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sure there's many areas that these folks are really behind in. So this came out on the 18th of May, 2019, Fox News. Rural America still struggle for access to high-speed internet service. Wow. As anticipation grows for 5G technology to be rolled out in big cities, nearly 15 million people in rural pockets across the country are still waiting for reliable, high-speed internet, according to the FCC. In the Southeast, some states like Alabama are desperate to get their rural areas up to speed. Without reliable, speedy connection, rural schools have gone without utilizing online tools for learning. Wow. So they're really behind. Hospitals don't have the latest technology, and industries have been left behind. Cole Sandlin, the owner of Fred's Pharmacy in Hamilton, Alabama, said everything from communicating with customers to processing claims was much more difficult without high-speed internet. Wow. He's filling prescriptions and he doesn't have high-speed internet? Processing claims was slower, said Sandlin. It's really tough, and it's been tough for our community. Sandlin said his previous provider offered him as much as 6 megabytes per second of broadband speeds. So he had to think twice about an e-medicine trial he wanted to try out at his pharmacy that would allow customers to communicate with doctors via video chat. That was until the area finally got approved for a company to come in and provide high-speed internet access. Damn, this is 2019 and they're just getting around to doing this in rural areas? No wonder why them people are on drugs. We would have never had telemedicine kiosk without high-speed internet in our community, he said. A patient should come inside and see a lab doctor on feed, get a diagnosis, pick their prescription up, and not have to sit in a waiting room with people that might have the flu or exposed to some kind of something like that, I guess. Um, wow. Do you know they had that in my area where what they have, and Comcast actually will set this up. A lot of the elderly people, especially the ones that live alone, they have this video chat session set up through Comcast. And what happens is instead of the visiting nurse coming out every day or, a few times a week, sometimes what they do is do a video chat with the patient and they'll have the patient weigh themselves, go over their prescriptions and all that stuff. They've had that for years. They've had that for years. And these these folks are just getting around to this where they can video chat with their doctors. They've been had that in my area. They had stuff like this back in the 90s. And actually, that was the first time I ever seen it in my area, where you could go online because a couple of my relatives were up in age and some of them were living alone. And what they did was the nurse and Comcast came out and set it up. And all they do is just sit there and they go over how they feel. They talk about their prescriptions. The nurse have them weigh themselves. And sometimes, they have like a heart monitor they have to hook up and they do a reading. They've been doing, wow, they are just getting around to this in rural areas in 2019 where they could video chat with a doctor. Oh, wow. Wow. In 2018, Alabama Governor Kay Ivey signed a rural internet bill into law that offered electric co-ops and telecommunication companies grant money in exchange for infrastructure investments in some of the state's rural area with little to no access to high-speed internet. Do you know they are doing this same thing in Africa, y'all? And it's going on at the same time in the US in rural areas. There are many areas in Africa where they got internet, but it's limited. And China right now is in the process of giving the internet to 100 million people across Africa. And they started doing this a few years back. And here, I want you to process this. Here in America, there are rural areas in the same boat as Africa when it comes down to high-speed network. Just process that. Wow. Electric Co-op and Tom Bigby rolled out a 5-phase, $48 million plan to install fiber optic cable in Hamilton, Alabama. They're just getting around to fiber optics. And part of its surrounding area through its Freedom Fiber broadband company. I'm just astonished here. The co-op has finished phase 1 of the project and has moved on to phase 2 since it was approved in early 2017. Georgia and Mississippi have also jumped on board. Both states passed legislation this year to give electric co-op the authority to install, offer, and expand broadband services to customers in rural areas of those states. The roughly 4 dozen electric co-ops between the states can now bid on more than $600 million in federal grants and loans offered through the United States Department of Agriculture Reconnect program. Texas and North Carolina are both considering legislation that would allow their electric co-ops to do the same. For Stephen Fauci, CEO of Tom Bigby Electric Cooperative, the investment in Northwest Alabama isn't just simply about high-speed internet. He believes it's a way to keep rural America alive. My goodness. We want the best here if we're going to recruit industry, if we're going to recruit high tech, if we're going to exchange medicine, if we're going to change the school system, then the best in the state needs to be right here, he said. And that's what we intend to do. We want us to be able to compete with any large city in the nation. Well, you ain't competing with them now, that's for sure. Woo, that's a damn shame. Shoot, they're going to be on 5G by the time you even get a broadband internet in the rural area for the first time. With co-ops making the necessary investments, increased competition could keep improving service offered to rural America. It'll spur innovation, said Alex Hammerstone, practice lead of governance, risk management, and compliance at TrustSec. The reality is, if there's only one provider available, there's no motivation to innovate. Let me tell you something. I now understand why so many young people are getting the hell out of rural America. It ain't nothing to do there other than be on drugs. You know, they don't hardly have any jobs. That's why so many people leave, because the job opportunities are just not there. And on top of that, you don't really have the internet. They don't have high-speed internet. What are they doing? Using dial-up still? I mean, I have to wonder, what the hell are these people using? They have no broadband? Wow. Please tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.